The 12th principle of the Agile Manifesto states that at regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. In Agile, when using the Agile methodology, the focus is on the customer. We are continuously and incrementally improving the product. And same thing for the team. Same thing for the way we run sprints. Continuous and gradual improvement. A sprint retrospective is the process Agile teams, Scrum teams go through to optimize sprints, to optimize their way of working. It's where they reflect on the past, what happened in the past sprint in terms of successes, in terms of failures, and what can we do to improve in the next sprint. If done well, the sprint retrospective should create a safe place where people can share their honest feedback and opinion on what happened in the previous sprint. What went well, what didn't go so well, and how can we improve together for the upcoming sprints. If done poorly, the sprint retrospective can turn into a blame game, people blaming each other, and no concrete actions in order to improve together is decided in the meeting. Just blaming each other without any real actions to improve. One of the things that I see very often, especially with teams that have been working together for a long time, are boring retrospectives that can lead to apathy. The same questions being asked in each and every sprint retrospective, the same format being used by the facilitator. It's boring. People are less engaged when they see the same thing over and over again. Mix things up. A sprint retrospective should be entertaining, should be unique, so that people become creative in the session, so that they can work on improvement items together, so that they are inspired to work together. And there's no one way to do it. There's thousands of ways that you can use to run effective sprint retrospectives. The key here is to always be changing and mixing things up. Speaking of which, I've been for the past few months running a 60-minute sprint retrospective. I call it the 3-3-3 format. It's pretty good. I like using it. Let's go through it together. If you want to know how to run the standard sprint retrospective that everyone uses, you can watch this video instead. There's 4 steps to this sprint retrospective. First, break the ice. Second, speak up. Third, come up. And fourth, take up. Let's start with step number 1. Break the ice. Should last around 5 minutes, not more than 5 minutes. You need to always start your sprint retrospectives with an icebreaker. Icebreakers are extremely underrated. When I tell people to use icebreakers, they tell me it's a waste of time. They don't get it. The goal of an icebreaker is to make people talk in the session, early in the session, at least once. It can be anything, but they need to talk at least once in the beginning of a session. Because when someone talks in the beginning of a session, to say anything, they are way more likely to talk during the session also throughout. And that's the goal, to make people participate and talk and come up with ideas together. So use icebreakers. It's very underrated. Keep the icebreaker short, simple, fun, and unrelated to work. If you could go back in time at any moment in history, which one would you pick? If you could ask a question, anything, to an alien, what would you ask? There's literally millions of options. Just do a search online. Step number 2, speak up, which should last around 7 to 16 minutes. The first thing you need to do is pick a row from the table being displayed on the screen right now. Example, you could pick the 4th row, outcomes, quality, and teamwork. You use these 3 words and you write them separately on 3 post-its and you stick them on a wall in the room. You can use different words, different combination of words for future sprint retrospectives to keep things unique and fresh. The next step is simply asking people in the room to think about something or multiple things that can improve each one of these categories, improving outcome, quality, teamwork in the future sprints. What can we do in terms of actions together to improve all of these things? Tell them to write. Think about it for maybe 1 minute and then write on a post-it. 1 action, 1 post-it. And you take the post-it and you stick it on the wall in the column required. The column of outcome, the column of quality, and the column of teamwork. You can set a timer for 5 minutes. And when everyone is done, you tell them to explain briefly, only a few words, what they wrote to ensure that everyone understands it. Step number 3, come up with should last around 15 to 21 minutes. Form small groups, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. Doesn't matter, just form small groups and tell each one of these groups to come up with 3 ideas that we can use right now in the next sprint. Short-term ideas that will have a huge impact in terms of outcome, the things that you picked: outcome, teamwork, and quality. 3 ideas only. Huge impact. Tell them to think short-term, the next sprint only. And each group, once they are done, you can set a timer maybe for 5 minutes. Once they are done, they can share their ideas together. Ask questions, answer questions, debate a little bit, not too much, just to ensure that everyone is on the same page and everyone understands these actions together. Once done, the next step is voting. We won't be able to talk about all these actions. We'll only talk about 3 actions, the top 3. So give everyone 3 votes. You can simply use a pen and tell them to put a little dot on the post-it that they want to talk about in priority. Tell them that we're going to talk about only 3 of these actions. So pick the one, choose wisely, the one that will have the greatest impact for the coming sprint. Step number 4, take up, which should last around 15 to 30 minutes. Count the number of votes and pick the top 3. We're going to use the rest of the time to talk about these 3 top items. Each one maybe 10 minutes per item. Let the team talk about it. Let the team debate. Talk about, is this item, does it make sense? Go into details. What does it mean in terms of actions? What can we do? Concrete actions that we can implement in the next sprint. As a facilitator, your role here is to really focus on the action part. We are not here only to talk for the sake of talking. No, we want clear actions and clear owners for each one of these actions. So always let the conversation flow, obviously, but always have this in mind. Push them towards what's the next action? Can we have an action here? Can we write and agree on an action that we can take in the next sprint? You keep on asking this question. Once the people agree on an action, you need to decide on an owner. The owner is the person who will ensure follow-up and ensure that this action is done. You are not, as a facilitator, deciding on these actions or deciding on the owner who will be picking owners. No, let the team self-organize and decide for themselves. You are just here to write these actions down and keep them safe. So for each one of these actions, you ensure that there's an owner, and it may be a target date, or maybe we decide together that we'll be picking it up in the next sprint. We're going to finalize that in the sprint planning, but we can already sort of commit in the sprint retrospective, and you write these actions down somewhere, stored somewhere, visible to everyone during the next sprint. Clear owner, clear target date, and that's it. In the next sprint retrospective, you can open this list of action and really reflect on what happened. Did this experiment, all the things that we tried to do in the coming sprint, did it go well? Didn't go so well? What can we do to improve even further? Which brings me to my next point. If you want more tips, insights on Agile, Scrum, personal growth, click on the video that stands out the most on the screen right now, and I'll see you in a few seconds.